With ADP finally moving and grooving and changing every single day, it is now time to look over ADP constantly and see what values and steals we can find in the draft. We'll talk about that and more on today's action packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we are your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Ane. You can find me on Twitter, X, or whatever you want to call it, and Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And if you're watching on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps out the show. And truthfully, you know what? You'll also get some notifications of when we drop a new episode on there. You don't want to miss out. We're going to help you win some leagues. And you know what? If you want a little bit more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast, you've been here for a while, check us out on Subtext. Links in the description below. You know, way bigger experience than what we can offer in this 30-minute episode. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So look, I know I look a little off. I know the episode with Frank, I kind of looked like I was on my deathbed and did not sound good. Just like now, my voice is going to crackle like I'm 14 all over again. But, you know, I'm fighting something good here and just coming off vacation to boot. So, you know, excuse me from the jump. But Dom did, you know, pretty much like guys that were too pricey in the last episode. And it's now my time to kind of seep through and kind of see, you know, what's out there in ADP right now. This is, you know, based off of NFBC's and the ADP, and see actually where the values are. Where do I think, you know, the guys that can be the difference makers in each in certain rounds at certain prices that I feel can truly impact your team and be that difference maker that actually is the difference between finishing third and, you know, actually winning your league. So I'm not saying you have to get every single one of these guys. And also too, by the time we get to draft, you know, draft time, I'm going to be doing this episode again, kind of breaking it down. But for everybody that's doing drafts now, like this is a great exercise to do. And even so, paying attention to these draft prices are key because that's going to be the difference. You know, if the price still is right, you don't want to just forget about these guys. So let's get into it. Let's dig and, you know, go from there. And the first guy I feel is an absolute steal, and that's Blake Snell of Los Angeles Dodgers, right? Blake Snell, yes, you know, you can say, oh, he's a slow starter. Look at last season and all the seasons before where he's really not a first half kind of guy. But the numbers speak for itself at the end of the year. And you know what? I feel like last year was kind of like a prove it year. And I feel like he was unfairly forced and thrusted into starting early. You know, Giants were impatient. They only started him 2 weeks after the season started. And that was what, 17 days prior to his signing with that team. So he had like no spring training and that was and no ramp up essentially. And obviously he went down and got hurt. But when he did return, he was absolutely stellar. You know, this final numbers were phenomenal. So you look at it and you go, okay, 104 innings pitched, 145 strikeouts, a 3.12 ERA, pitched about 20 games in total, and you know, finished with a 104 whip. Everything screamed, hey, you're having a fantastic year. You know, just unfortunately was not the full year. And again, I believe it's the rush over anything else. And all the underlying stats really supported, right? You look at the xERA, that's actually sitting at a 2.57. The X batting average, which is, you know, pretty much anybody going against him, what their batting average would be, is a 178. Fastball still looking sharp as ever at nearly 96 miles an hour. Really not giving up that hard contact with the average exit velocity sitting at 86.5 miles an hour. That is truly an elite average exit velocity for a pitcher. Like, you know, most good pitchers, and I'm saying good, right? Like they give up quasi hard contact, you know, at the average, right? It's usually like anywhere from 88 to, you know, 90 miles an hour, but they're still able to, you know, keep contact, keep the ball in the yard essentially. And Blake Snell is seriously suppressing the contact, and that is truly key. On top of it, he's getting guys to chase his pitches at a pretty good rip at 31.6% at the time, and then getting guys to whiff, which is at an elite rate at 37.7% of the time, nearly 40%. And he's getting the strikeout at 34.7% of the time. These are all great things. He's also not allowing guys to barrel up. which is awesome. Only about 5.7% of the time. And then really like I was highlighting with the average exit velocity, hard contact as a whole is down. It's only 28.9% of the time, which truly is awesome. If I'm getting nitpicky here, you're looking at Blake Snell's profile and you go, okay, ground balls are, at 42% of the time. And that I don't like is it's only at 42% of the time. That number needs to go up. I would like to see that, closer to 50%. That would take him to a sub 3 ERA, but he's absolutely incredible. And just to give you a little perspective of where I have him ranked, I have Blake Snell is ranked as my number 5 SP overall. Unless I hear something where he's not going to be healthy for the league, I think this is the perfect storm for him. Not only is it the landing spot, and just like what we've seen over the last couple years, I think that we're about to see an even better step forward, from this kid. He's absolutely stellar. The best part is he's only 32 years old, the prime, in my opinion, in terms of pitching. You know, a guy that last year put on, you know, made that fastball even more deadly from going from a batting average last year I mean, 2023 of 288, I'm sorry, 255 to now 200. The curveball stayed pretty much as elite. Really messed with his changeup, and made it look at he'll hit a little bit more, but created more putaways with it. So I'll take that, right? Like he threw it a little bit more. It looked like he threw it 17% of the time. No, it's about level peg. I apologize, but really just made an impact with the putaways and the slider. For instance, slider was just as elite as the year before. The putaways were more leaning towards the curveball and the changeup. The slider was still there 21.7% of the time. You look at Blake Snell and you go, okay, as a whole, is he an SP1? And the word is yes. The answer is yes. Blake Snell 100% is an SP1 at this point, and the team around him, everything under the sun just screams, hey, you're going to be successful. So for Blake Snell, for me, I am a huge fan this year. Him being, my SP1, my SP5 overall, I think is going to be great. The fact that he's coming off the board at, which I haven't even mentioned yet, at pick 50, and SP17 is an absolute steal. You're getting him as your SP2 at the end of the day. And I feel like that's an absolute steal as well. So when it comes down to Blake Snell, you can really wait on pitching, and it gives you an advantage because now I can load up at the other positions. Like, if you watched our mock draft episodes, which you'll be getting one tomorrow, um, you know, at shortstop goes real early, and the tier drop off at outfield position really drops off, and you really want to load up on those guys early, and that's going to be the key to success for this year. So being able to wait and just pick up Blake Snell as your SP1 at pick 50 and SP17 is stellar, especially when I have him ranked as my pitcher 5. On top of that, too, like the upside is absolutely amazing. There is obviously some, what's the word I'm looking for? High variables in terms of like high ceiling, low floor as well. He can completely flop for the whole first half, and then you're in really bad shape. But at the same time, you only have to get him for half a season, and I think you'd even be fine at that rip. And the eliteness that you're going to be able to pick up ahead of that because you waited on pitching to pick him as your SP1 is going to benefit you way more than anything else. And then you're just going to be able to kill it at this point. And there's a couple other pitchers too that, like, okay, I paired, like, if you go back to the previous mock draft Monday show from last week, you'll be like, oh, okay, I literally went this Blake Snell and then our next guy, which teased is Yashinobu Yamamoto on the same team. And it's a stellar 1-2 punch. And I have them pretty highly ranked, just the two of them. They're my 5-6 punch right there. And I'm able to get them pretty late. So, like, I don't really agree with the market or the what do you call it, the industry at this point of where they have everybody ranked, and why these guys would be so lowly ranked. I understand draft and hold and things like that, but at the same time, like, you're gonna miss out on the talent, and if anything, you're now going to be able to wait to go and get him now. Coming up next, we are going to talk about Yashinobu Yamamoto, and why I think he's another stellar SP1, and then these other guys of, why I think they're going to be values and such coming up next. So they just moved everything around on me. There we go. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concert, comedy, and theater and so much more. Game Time has plenty of great features as well, such as their all-in-one pricing. Honestly, no surprises at checkout. Everything's up front, which is absolutely awesome. Views from your seat. You get a sweet panoramic view of your seat, making sure you're not sitting behind that pole. The lowest prices are guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time's tickets coverage is completely unmatched. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use the code Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account and use and redeem the code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And are you? Sorry. Here we go. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Honestly, guys, look, I mentioned a little bit at the top. I'm gonna dive in for a quick second, and then we're gonna get out of here on it. Look, you want to win your leagues. You want to know what our rankings are. You want to see more than what we offer in this 30-minute podcast. Check us out. Links in the description below. We will not disappoint. You'll get our actual rankings with tiers coming in February. You're going to get our dynasty rankings, our prospect rankings, our sleepers, breakout busts, all that wonderful stuff. Plus, you'll be able to ask us questions. Who's better than you? Minimal cost. Check it out. Links in the description below, and I'll give you a free 2 weeks when you sign up. So check it out. Check us out in there. All right, let's get back into it. I promised right before the break, talk about Yashinobu Yamamoto, and again the Dodgers, and he's another one I feel really great about having on my team this year. I think that the kid is going to be good. We saw, you know, what he could do in the short stint. Obviously, he wasn't able to stay healthy, but let's not let that be his full story. I don't think it is. He still went out there and pitched 18 games. And his first shot at the bigs was 90 innings and finished with a 3 ERA right on the dime with 105 strikeouts and a whip of 111. That's nothing to grunt, like, snarl at and put your nose up to. Like, oh, no, he wasn't able to stay healthy. The kid is also 25 years old, going to be 26 this year. Like, and he's coming out in the bigs after being a Japanese superstar and saying, "Yo, guys, I'm here. There's a reason I've been here." You look at his past and his last couple of years, and he's pitched a pretty good amount: 171 innings pitched, 193, 193. Like, these are the last 3 years of his career. You're like, yo, like, he also has been a picture of health. So, I think that last year was a fluke, and we kind of got to give him a pass. On top of that, you really want to look at just like the stats alone and what he was doing when he was actually out there, and let's look at under the hood. The xERA was sitting at 344, obviously a little bit higher, but still doesn't scare me away. Guys pitching at 344 at the strikeout rate that he's doing and the upside that he actually has based off of what he's done in Japan, is absolutely astronomical. And there's a reason why we were drafting him as the number 10 SP last year going in, and we all knew the talent was there. Just was pretty, you probably have some burn marks from it. That's why he's, falling to literally, which this is the most cringiest part. He's coming off the board at pick 58, SP19, which again, I think is a travesty and, should be taking advantage of that draft price as well. He is my number 6 pitcher, and he's earned it. His fastball sitting at 95 miles an hour. His average exit velocity is at 88.4. Yes, 2 miles per hour faster than Blake Snell, but still pretty elite. If you go on Baseball Savant and you're familiar with it, it's still a hint of red. So we're still good there. Still somebody that's keeping contact down. Getting guys to chase about 31.7% of the time. That's great. Getting guys to whiff about 27% of the time. I'd like to see a little bit more, but still creating the strikeouts 28.5% of the time. Not walking guys at only 6% of the time. The barreling is a little disappointing, but again, first year in the bigs, 8.3%. That can definitely, get some positive regression on, and I think he'll be successful. And the hard contact is the one thing that I really want to nitpick. He's given that up about 41.3% at the time, but at least he's not giving up the average exit velocity and that, which I think he can fix that just by tuning in his pitches and getting things. And I think maybe the injury kind of played into it as well. But you know what? With an arsenal that he has, he just has to see what works. And I think last year was a testing year. I think this year is going to be a step forward. Like, look, he played with his four seam fastball. He threw that about what 40% of the time, and that had a batting average of 262, which is actually really not bad. But you'd prefer to see a little bit better, especially with a pitch that he threw about 40% of the time. Look at the split finger. That was thrown about 24% of the time. That had a batting average of 170. That's awesome. And could have had a put away of 22.3% of the time. The curveball was thrown about 23% of the time. And he had a batting average of 214 on that and put away guys like a monster with that at 27.7% of the time. Cutter was out there 12%, had to put away of 12% of the time. That was thrown not really that often at 6% of the time. The slider, which was got the got another little bit of rip, was got to put away 31% of the time. He really has a lot of pitches. Four seam fastball, split finger, curveball, cutter, slider, sinker, sweeper. Like, how you doing? The kid just has to figure out what works in the bigs and how to mess with his pitch mix. And I think he's a season away from being successful at this point. And not that he wasn't already. So he's definitely an SP1. Do not sleep on him. So these are guys I'm taking advantage of. And I think that will finish as SP1s in 2024, 2025. And I haven't ranked that way. So these other guys out there, just be careful and at least take advantage or follow my strategy and feel comfortable walking away with one of these guys as your SP1. Let's move on. Let's talk about Luis Robert. Luis Robert had a very, very disappointing 2024 campaign. Obviously was not a picture of health at all. 26 years old still, which is absolutely crazy because I feel like he's been in the league forever. Had 393 at bats. He had 47 runs, 19 doubles, no triples, 14 bombs, 35 ribs, 23 stolen bases, batted a cruddy 224. Now look, you can't give this kid, you know, how do I put this? You can't just bury him because he's completely disappointed and he's back to, not being healthy like he has been for his whole career. You look at 2021 where he barely made it through. He didn't even make it through the season, 275 at bats. Same thing in 22. But then 23, he managed to play almost a full season. He played 145 games and had 38 home runs and 80 ribs and 20 stolen bases. Look, this 20 stolen base pace was already well past it. He's already at 23 and was still had 250 less at bats than he had the year before. So I think we were going to see a special season out of that. The 14 home runs were definitely on pace, maybe a little bit less of a pace of last year, but was on pace to probably have right under 30 home runs, probably looking about 27. And if he would have had, let's say, 40 stolen bases and 27 home runs, I think the batting average probably would have caught up to about 250 if he would have stayed healthy. That would have been an insane season. And I think if he wouldn't have been hurt, that power would have been there. He would have crossed the 30 threshold without a doubt. The kid is a full-blown threat. You can't overlook him. You can't. I understand you're feeling the burns, but we were drafting him as a top 12 OF last year, and I still feel strongly that he is damn near close. So I have him, Luis Robert, at OF 11, and you know what? You look at it and it's like, okay, like guys that are being significantly drafted over him is like the Ronald Acuña's, which we still have no clue, but we've still no clue what he's going to be like. But we've seen what his season can look like after tearing his ACL, and other guys that like the Julio Rodriguez's that had even worse seasons in my opinion, and that busted. You look at that and you're like, okay, well, Luis Robert has now fallen to where is he now? Luis Robert is now at pick 84 OF 21. Like you can't pass on that value at the end of the day. And I understand, look, you look under the hood and not everything is exciting. If you look at the ex-WOBA 277, the ex-batting average at 210, and the ex-slug at 364, do not get me wrong. It's not like I'm screaming, hey, he's phenomenal last year and everything supports it. Like, no, I'm betting on the talent. The average exit velocity was still there, 90 miles an hour. 90 miles an hour. He barreled still almost 10%. His launch angle was still looking good. The bat speed was great. He just was making mistakes because he was trying to fight back from injury, is how it looks. With the being able to square up and the chase and the whiffs and the strikeouts, things that just aren't really are kind of out of character for him in a lot of ways. Like you look at all the step forwards he took in 2023, and it really wasn't in those categories: the chase, the whiffs, the Ks, and the walks. wasn't there. It's still pretty similar. So the only thing that really changed was the ex-WOBA batting average and slug. There's no doubt in my mind that he can't course correct and go back to being elite. So this is a value. I'm taking advantage of Luis Robert going at that price. And I think everybody should. You're making a mistake and doing yourself a disservice if you overlook him and don't let go of the burns. You give him a little bit of a pass. But coming up next, I'm gonna move a little bit faster. Not I'm gonna have to make this a two-part episode, but I got Luis Castillo coming up after the break, and then Jordan Westburg, which you guys all know how I feel, and then Tyler Glasnow and his price. It's just these next three guys, the price is just outrageous, and you're going to want to hear why I'm drafting them over others. Coming up next. Okay, of course, it moves on me again. There we go. So, in sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best team makes the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. Select Quotes makes it easy to find the perfect insurance policy as one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience. They've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets Select Quote apart from their is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers, they don't have a one size fit all policy. Their licensed agents tailor their coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, if you might find your might even qualify for some same day coverage up to $5 million with no medical exam, which trust me, I've been through the process. It's a pain in the butt. That is stellar. If it's and it's more affordable than you think. You can get up to $1 million coverage in just as little as $20 a month. Get the rated life insurance for you for less at selectquotes.com/locked on. Go to selectquotes.com/locked on today to get started. At selectquotes.com/locked on. Select Quotes, they shop, you save, and they do everything for you. Guys, look, before I let you go here, look, I have a family. If you can't tell, I just came back from Disney. I wouldn't normally choose to go there, but when you start a family or you have people that depend on you, you need to make sure your fantasy, I mean not your fantasy, your future, their future is secure if something were to happen to you, and it's not something you can overlook. For a minimal cost, you can make sure that they have financial security if something, God forbid, would happen to you, or if you need to take advantage of it yourself. So Select Quotes is allowing you to do that. So lean on them all day long. Select Quotes. All right, let's get back into it. Luis Castillo of the Seattle Mariners. Look, this was a down year. It is what it is. I look at it like this. It wasn't a bad year. Yes, you drafted him as a top 12 pitcher. Yes, it wasn't all pretty, but he still didn't poorly perform. It wasn't a utter bust. 175 innings, 175 strikeouts. Okay. Yes, it wasn't the blazing 30 Ks over the innings pitch. It was a K per nine right on the dime. But ERA was still at a 3.64. Not bad, not elite like you would expect. And a 1.16 whip. Not mad at it. Obviously, you'd like to see that a little bit lower. He's been obviously better in his career. This is a career bad year at age 31. Look, Father Time, yes, is unbeaten. I completely understand that. And you look under the hood and things support the fact that hey, there's a negative aggression. But here's the thing too. You also got to look at track history. And 32 is one of the years where I say pitchers are at their best. It's one of their best years because they're older. This is an old head game and being up on that mound, not a young blood game. The smarter you are, the older you are, the more mature are, the better you are suited to just outmaneuver the person at the plate. Luis Castillo is there. I don't foresee this being his story. I don't think he drops off at age 32. You told me 35, 36. Yeah, I can start getting behind that. Even 34, 32. I think he's being completely overlooked and underdrafted wholeheartedly. Coming off the board at pick 87, pitcher 34 is an absolute steal. He's another guy I still have well above ADP. Do not get me wrong. I have Castillo at SP 13. So clearly I'm way higher than the curve. And you take that however you want to take it. But I'm not giving up on him. A guy like this doesn't just fall off a cliff. without some catastrophic injury happening to him. And that did not happen in 2024. So Luis Castillo, I think, is a steal. I'm not saying you wait around and he's your first pitcher. No, but he's a guy I'm targeting because the price is perfect. He's coming. You're literally getting him as your SP3. It is the perfect kind of player I want to take a shot on to bounce back. Because if the ceiling is what we all thought it would be last year, where he finishes now as a top 12 pitcher, great. His floor is an SP3. This is a steal. This is a no risk bet. You're going to get ROP and probably way more than that. When ROP is return on pick, you need to draft Luis Castillo. This is the price that I am willing to pay every single time. Let's move on. Jordan Westburg of the Baltimore Orioles. Now, this is another price I just can't get over. Okay, he's being coming off the board at pick 94 based off of NFBC and at ADP. Seventh, third baseman coming off the board. And quite honestly, again, somebody that everybody is sleeping on, and I don't understand it. You look at, Westberg when before he got hurt and he broke his hand, what he was doing, 416 at bats, 57 runs, 26 doubles, 5 triples, 18 bombs, 6 stolen bases, batting 264. He was looking like a stud out there. The breaking of the hand really did unfortunately shut him down way too early. He had at least 150 bats at least in him. I think he would have played a full season. He missed literally 50 games, like a little bit more than that. And you know what he would have did in 50 games, I think would have been outrageous. Let's put it this way: batting average was just exactly where I wanted. If anything, I think it might have gotten a little bit better. The power was definitely on pace to be, taking the run at 30, and he probably would have chipped in and finished with 10 stolen bases. And that team would have created way more runs and ribs. He was already doing it. And you look under the hood and everything supports it. X WOBA was sitting at 353. X batting average was at 281. X slug was at 491. His average exit velocity was sitting at 91.1 miles an hour. He was barreling 11.8% of the time, creating hard contact 46% of the time. Launch angle was looking beautiful. Chef kiss at 37.4% of the time. You know, he was chasing, he was, whiffing, and he was striking out. But hey, he's still young. You really look at it, right? The year prior only had 280 bats. This is his first full career year, right? Where you're like, okay, cool. He's really taking it off. He's taking this league by storm. Don't sleep on this kid. This is the best value you're gonna get. Second and third eligibility, coming off that cheap. Like, yeah, third base, but third base, he's coming off at 94. I'll take that price all day. Do not sleep on Jordan Westberg. I promise you, he's going to be my guy this year. No question. Best pick in the draft this year. Oh, I love it. I just hope the price doesn't get too high because then it's just going to get upsetting, but I'm still going to pay it. Anyway, let's talk about Tyler Glasnow. This one's this one I like the price more than I like the risk. Let's put it this way. Tyler Glasnow is coming off the board at pick 107, pitcher 44. By no means is Tyler Glasnow pitcher 44, even if he plays the same amount of games as last year. When Tyler Glasnow is healthy, he is one of the best pitchers in baseball. That's wholeheartedly. We know that about DeGrom, about Kershaw. He's just one of those guys. He's not like the super elite. Do not think I'm anointing him, take a chill pill, sit back down. But he is one of the better pitchers in this league. He is phenomenal. He just can't stay on the mound. But I'll take a season from him versus other guys that are going around this pick, let alone if you can get him this cheap, which you're not. I promise you, you're not. A lot of people do not even have him ranked this low, so this is not a real price. This is a draft and hold price. This price is going to rise. He's probably going to finish more like I would say an SP 15. I think is where his ADP finally lands, which I'll still pay. He's an SP 2. I have him ranked as an SP 1 currently at this moment, and it's very hard for me not to. I think I want to be more conservative because of the injury that he left last year with a sprained elbow. And, does that mean that TJ is around the corner, or did they do the right things to allow him to not get it? And maybe we're going to get a full season out of him. If I get a full season out of him, I'm going to lose my stuff. Like Tyler Glasnow is an absolute force. And you look at everything the kid's done. Even last year, just, imagine to go out there pitching 134 innings, 22 games, and still had 168 strikeouts, a 3.49 ERA with a sub 1 whip. Everything screamed, hey, I was good. There was nothing that impinged his performance except, hey, the average exit velocity was sitting at 89 miles an hour. Yeah, and he didn't get guys to chase as much as I'd like, and allowed guys to barrel a little bit more, and contact was there. But at the same time, everything else was super elite, and that's just who he is. You know, he's never been a guy that did not give up hard contact. He's just been a guy that's been able to just bury you down with his stuff and be good. XERA at 265, X batting average at 195, fastball velocity sitting at 96 miles an hour, getting guys to whiff at literally 31% of the time, strike out 32% of the time, creating those ground balls, which makes up for all that hard contact at 48.3% of the time, doing things right. Has a great pitch mix between that four seam fastball, that slider, that curveball, and that sinker. Kid does it all and really does lean on that four seam fastball, which is barely hit at a batting average of 215 and an X batting average of 207. The kid really is just elite. This is somebody that I'm saying is the perfect draft price. If you're getting him at this cheap, which you're not, like I said, I think you're killing it. That's like your SP4. No way is that really happening in real life. Okay, we're gonna go in these years, and even if you get him as your SB2, you have one baseball. Maybe not your league, but you have an elite rotation. You have done well. So Tyler Glass now needs to be picked, and that draft price needs to come up because it's way too cheap. I promise you. You're gonna let a guy do that in your league. I promise you, he's gonna have the best rotation in the league by the end of the year. No question. So, guys, with that, I'm sorry I didn't get to go through all my names. Maybe I'll make this a part two. We'll see. Check us out on Subtext if you want to know. Hit me up on Subtext if you want to know what the rest of the list is. I will give it to you. Um, but yeah, with that being said, guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, share this show because you're only as good as the knowledge that you share and compete against the guys with the same knowledge or ladies. You know, you don't want to just be this, you know, thing because you're not that good. Then it's a hollow victory. I'm gonna put an asterisk next to it, and that's just one of those things. So please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, hit that bell on YouTube. And when you're done, check out my boy Sully over at Locked On MLB. Gives great baseball coverage all day for real baseball, not fantasy baseball. That's where you come is here. With that being said, guys, have a great rest of your day. Peace out.